Please note that the information on Retire Vivid referenced in this video is accurate as of the 18th of April, 2025. Changes to laws and regulations may make portions of this segment outdated and no longer relevant. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended to provide investment, tax, or legal advice. Please see our full disclosure at the end of this video.
Before the ascent begins, the mountain is studied. Not to control the climb, but to better understand it. It's not always obvious. Risk can appear in timing, and pressure in misread conditions. But with patience comes perspective. A route reveals itself, and each move becomes more intentional. This is how progress takes shape. The goal isn't to avoid uncertainty. It's to move through it with purpose.
Welcome to Retire Vivid. I'm McCarty. That's Tommy Breitbach. And today's episode is on common mistakes that we tend to see when people are looking at managing their money. Tommy, I think it's just so important. We meet with a lot of people, throughout the year. It's so important to have a plan when it comes to money management.
There are ways to make investing easy. You can just not look at it.
That's the easy way to do it.
Set up a plan, not look at it, and see where you're at, 5-10 years from now.
Yeah.
But that's not how people operate. And so there are things you can do to make investing easier from a mechanical perspective, and then there are also behavioral, obstacles or ways our minds operate that we have to overcome to get to the investing part.
Because I think so many times what a lot of people do is they like to compare their investment to somebody else's. Of course you'd love to have those big returns. Who wouldn't? But what type of wave or what type of, roller coaster ride did they get on in order to get to those returns? That's why it's so important to identify your goals, understanding your risk tolerance, and what you're trying to accomplish with your money.
Those things all come into just having a financial plan.
Right.
It's if you kind of have a blueprint of where you're at and where you want to be, what resources do you have, income, investment level, or asset level, I should say. How do all those things work together to get you to where you want to be?
Right.
And it's, retirement is an event, but retirement is also a process.
It's a journey as well.
It is a journey. Yeah.
Right.
You're sitting there, you've worked and worked and worked, and you hit that retirement date. Yes, that is your retirement date. But you also have hopefully another 10, 15, 20, 30 years left.
Sure.
To get through and enjoy.
Absolutely. And that also leads to a number one fear of retirees, and that's running out of money. Because again, we've talked about this many times during our show, the pension days are over. If you have a pension, hallelujah, good for you. But many people don't. They have their Social Security, they have their IRA, 401ks, and that money needs to last as long as they do. And so again, this was a study that was done through Charles Schwab, and it says that 96% of people with a written financial plan are more confident to reach their financial goals, which would make sense. So let's dial into that. So let's talk about some things that we see when it comes to some common mistakes, if you would. And the first one, Tommy, is not in really understanding what is your true risk tolerance.
When your accounts are growing, and everybody enjoys that. Everybody likes seeing that piece. You find out kind of where your true risk tolerance is when your accounts are down or the market's down or you're worried about something. And risk tolerance can kind of be divided into two topics. You have your ability, that's your financial risk tolerance. Mm-hmm. So that is your sources of income, your asset level, what you want it to do for you. Do you need supplemental income from those assets? Do you not? And then you also have kind of the willingness piece. And that's the part that the investor has to understand. That's your emotional risk tolerance. How are you going to react when the market's down? Are you stay in? Do you ride the wave? Are you out? Is it too much risk in your portfolio? Is it too volatile? Kind of all those pieces that you kind of have to answer for yourself.
Everything you just said is such a great point. I mean, it really is. It sounds great hearing it until you're actually in it. Until you're actually in it. When you actually go through the pain, right? You know, people say, "Oh yeah, I can handle a lot of risk." Oh, really? Until it happens, right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden, people go, "Yeah, you know what? I can't stomach this anymore." Because you know what? I mean, that's why we have to go through this risk tolerance. One of the things that we always talk about is what is your risk number, right? What is your risk number? And so it's like a speed sign. The faster you go, the more aggressive you are. And so let's just say that you have a risk tolerance of 70, so you're going 70 miles an hour, but you've never been happy with your portfolio. Well, we find out your portfolio is at a 40. Well, no wonder it's not getting up there with you. But let's flip it. Let's say that you have a risk tolerance or your speed limit is going 40 miles an hour and your portfolio is going 70. Well, you're going to be happy on up markets, but you really won't be happy when the market takes a nosedive.
I guess I haven't run into it, but nobody's ever said they made too much money.
No.
I mean, you can hear you lost too much money, but
Sure.
Nobody's ever said you made too much money.
Yep.
So you tend to find out your risk tolerance, your asset allocation, all those things, they aren't aligned at the bottom.
Yep.
You don't find that out at the top, you find it out at the bottom.
Right. And you know what? That's why we talk about also not taking on too much risk, or maybe you're taking on too little risk.
Right, and it's, that is your, going back to that last topic, the ability or your financial risk tolerance.
I love that.
It's how much volatility your portfolio can handle. If you're lucky enough to have a pension, Social Security benefits, if those are providing all of your income needs and your assets are out there as kind of fun money, or if I want to take a trip or make this one-time purchase, but you're not drawn on them, it's not irrelevant, but it's also, if your portfolio goes up and down, it doesn't impact your day-to-day.
Right.
And so it's matching kind of what you want your assets to do with what you're able to do.
And another thing too I want to talk about before we go to break, I want to talk about people, we hear this all the time, they say, "Oh, well, this time's different," or "This is so unprecedented," or whatever it may be. Every event in history that we've gone through, the big ones that I'm talking about, has been unprecedented. So Tommy, real quick here, I just want to take a look. If you go back in history, back into the 80s, we had the collapse of the USSR, and then the Berlin Wall. We had the Gulf War. Then we fast forward, we had the dot-com bubble, right? That was 2000, 2001. And then the big one that a lot of people remember, and that was the financial crisis. Remember that? The housing market burst, and then we had banks that went under. We had Brexit. We had the global pandemic. Backing up even further, we had the 9/11 attacks. I mean, every one of these events is unprecedented, and they all had their own flavor, if you would, of what caused that market turmoil.
Right, and if you have a long enough time horizon, you're planning for a long enough time, you can see that chart on your screen, the market has come back. And so everything feels unprecedented.
Yep.
History doesn't repeat, it tends to rhyme, but it is. Investing is a long-term process.
It is.
It happens over a series of short terms. You got to make it through all of those items you pointed out.
Right.
But it happens over the long term.
It happens over the long term, but eventually it's gone on to thrive. And so the question is, will it thrive enough in time for you? So we got a lot more to go through. So folks, stay with us. We're going to talk more about on the emotional end of investing, some things that you need to think about, and maybe some things you're thinking about today. More right after the break.
The next chapter is waiting. And we're here to help you make every moment count. So, whether you're embracing the quiet, cheering on your little all-star, or finally crossing off your bucket list, because confidence in your plan makes all the difference. At Vivid, we walk with you step by step, so you can focus on the important things. Make retirement vivid. To learn more, visit retirevivid.com.
Okay, welcome back to Retire Vivid. So one of the things that we always like to talk about is this. I mean, it's natural. I mean, we all have an emotional attachment to money. I mean, and that's the human element, right? Which makes sense. You worked hard for your money. But when you have your money invested and you start to see it move, and especially when the market's going down, you start to get nervous. And Tommy, I mean, so many times, when you see something getting hurt, what do most people want to do?
Yeah, your natural instinct is to protect it.
You want to protect it.
Pull that back in.
Bring it into the boat.
And so in the first segment, we talked about building a financial plan.
Right.
That does not necessarily capture the emotional attachment to money.
Right.
And so that's, it's a behavioral bias. That's the kind of the one obstacle that the investor or the retiree, whoever it may be, kind of has to overcome, or at least understand how they operate so they can react appropriately at the given time.
Well, this is where a lot of times people let their emotions, unfortunately, get in the way. And so, that old cardinal rule, I mean, a lot of you know what I'm talking about here. We talk about buy low, sell high. It's a cardinal rule. Sounds good, right? Sounds great. It's a great thing you should do. But when you're actually in the yuck, right, and it's time to buy low, when it's ugly out there, so many times people break that cardinal rule.
Separating kind of the rational decision from the emotional decision.
That's right.
So it's people have to get through that.
That's why we exist.
People have to get through the wave of investor emotions.
Yeah.
The market over time is up and down.
Yeah, well, if my wife's listening to this right now, she don't even want to look at it, because she especially with what we do in our profession, she goes, I don't know how you do this. That's why we're professionals. This is why we do what we do, right? So I want to talk about this. This is kind of fun. So I want to talk about the emotional wave of investing. And so I want to pull this up on our screen right now so our viewers can take a look at this. Tommy, walk our viewers through this. I mean, don't go through every one of these, but just kind of talk about the highlights of what you see during that wave of emotions.
Start out, optimistic. I've invested money. It's going to work. It's going to go up. You start to see it go up. You get excited. Then things start feeling really, really good. And sometimes when it's, when it's too good to be true,
it usually
you hit a level. And that's your maximum point of financial risk, is when you hit that euphoric level.
And
then, maybe it pulls back a little bit, and you're saying, oh, it's just a little one. And then you start getting a little bit nervous, then fear, and then
panic,
panic and
despondency.
And that's your point of maximum financial opportunity.
Right.
We should be buying low.
Right.
And selling high.
Right.
But it's very hard to make that decision when there's an assumption that something really bad has happened and it's just going to get worse.
Right.
You never know exactly where the bottom is. And so that's why we talk about investing being that long-term process.
It is a long-term process. And again, this kind of shows you buy low, sell high. But again, people obviously break that rule because, when you see something getting hurt and it's ugly out there, right? People do the opposite. They bring it in, like I talked about. Not when there's rainbows and unicorns out there, right? Because then you've missed it. And so that's why it's so important that you do work with somebody. If you have that emotional attachment, which it's natural, everybody does, but if you do have that emotion, that's why you work with a coach. You work with a financial advisor, a wealth manager that knows what they're doing and is taking the emotions out of it and being tactical and strategic with what they're doing.
If you can't do it yourself, find somebody that can help you with it, I guess.
Right. I mean, that's about as simple as it gets, right? So another thing too that I want to talk about is, time in the market versus, not trying to time the market, because that's nearly impossible. I mean, if somebody got it right at the bottom, let's be honest, they were lucky, okay? I mean, there may be a zone of when it's a good time to buy, but buying right at the bottom is nearly impossible. But that's why it's so important just to have that time in the market. Let's talk about that.
It's sometimes separating that kind of retirement time frame from life expectancy. I think most people know when you're younger, you have a long time horizon. You get to retirement, you worry about that time horizon shortening, but you still, based on reasonable health and life expectancy and things, you may retire and still have to plan for 20, 25 years.
Well, sure.
And so it's not, it's not that 3 to 5 year window. It's still a long time.
It is.
And so there's an example here. 5 different investors invested $2,000 annually into the S&P 500, years 2001 to 2020. The one who never got invested was just in a cash, like a 30-day treasury bill index.
Okay.
So the investor who had perfect timing, they found the low point in each of those years to inject that $2,000. You can see their results, about $151,000.
Yep.
Second investor was not certain where the market was going, just started investing. They put their $2,000 in on the first trading day of the year. You can see their results are still really good. The next person said, no, I don't feel good investing that lump sum. I'm just going to divide that 2,000 across 12 monthly, just do it every month.
Yep.
Results very similar to the first part of the year. Even the investor who had the worst timing.
Got it all wrong.
And across those 20 years, they found the high spot of every year and decided to put their money in there. You know, they hit the euphoria stage. They put their money
Rainbows,
in on euphoria.
unicorns going in.
Even that bad timing, you can see, was still in, striking distance of the others, but far outpaced, far exceeded the individual who just never did anything. Just kind of stayed in that cash-like or the real short-term treasury bills. And so it's, as much as we say it's time in the market, it's not timing, you still have to overcome the emotion.
That's exactly right. And again, I want to be clear. I mean, we're not saying that everybody should be in the market. I want to be clear on that. I mean, some people, they just can't stomach that. And that's okay. I mean, their peace of mind goes a long ways. But, here's the deal. If you have to live on this money and you plan to draw from this money, I mean, where are you going to put your money? I mean, okay, sure, you can go look at CDs. You can take a look at money market funds if you want to keep it safe. I mean, you can look at annuities, or you can look at, but the question is you have to have some money in the game, right? To keep up with what? Inflation, right? Because again, what our clients are looking for as their wealth management company, they want a decent rate of return, right? They don't want to lose a lot, but they also want to do what, Tommy? Keep up with inflation.
Keep up with inflation. Yeah,
Keep up with inflation.
You want all the money you've saved, all the years you were working, to be there for you when you retire.
That's right.
To provide kind of the lifestyle or the goals that you had in retirement. You want it to be there.
Absolutely. And another thing too, I want to talk about these 2 points before we go to break. This is so big because we live in such a polarizing, world with social media and all the political heightness and everything going on. Focusing on headlines. I want to talk about that.
It becomes, you first attention or headlines are supposed to be attention grabbing.
Right.
Most people don't tend to click on articles that just have a very generic headline.
Right.
So they're inherently attention grabbing. You also want to understand the motivation of the individual putting out the article.
Right.
If they are scaring you out of investing, is there something else that they're trying to utilize? And so just figuring out, headlines or individuals that you trust and sticking with that.
And the next thing is trying to predict the future. I mean, nobody knows what the future is going to be, right? And so it really just comes down to your plan.
And investing is inherently uncertain.
Right.
If you're sitting with two different people, one person says, investing is uncertain. Right. We're looking out 5 to 10 years. We're looking for your assets to grow. Are you going to feel confident in what's going to happen over the next 12 months versus sitting with somebody and say, economic conditions are good. We're predicting earnings growth. The market's going to go up 10% this year.
Right.
Some people like to feel that uncertainty, but investing is inherently uncertain. And so it's not trying to predict the future. It's putting that plan together, looking at a long-term horizon, just getting all your items in a row.
Absolutely. I mean, it's also that bucket approach because we want to have a nice reserves because we want people to be able to, enjoy themselves, even if the market becomes, or when the market becomes volatile. But, that's also why we talk about doing this 15-minute retirement review. I mean, people have questions, whether it be on this topic alone with, their 401ks or their traditional IRAs. But Tommy, I think it's been a very valuable service that we offer at no cost to our viewers, where they can ask us these questions on anything retirement.
We talked about the plan in the first segment, but your plan has a lot of pieces. It has taxes, it has Social Security, it has investments, healthcare, Medicare, kind of trust issues or estate issues. All of those items, if there's a quick question, those can usually be answered.
Yep, and so we encourage all of you to take advantage of that. Okay, so next we're going to talk about, to really summon this thing up when it comes to investing mistakes within your overall retirement. Stay with us, more right after the break.
Do you have questions about your retirement plan, or do you want to know if you are on the right track? We are here to help. Simply go to retirevivid.com or call the number below to schedule a 15-minute retirement review. You can speak with us about taxes, Social Security, your 401k, or any quick retirement questions at no cost to you. We are here to make retirement vivid. Schedule your 15-minute retirement review today.
Okay, welcome back to the show. We are wrapping up investing mistakes, and we're gonna go through this segment, with things you can do. So we spent the first two segments there talking about things not to do or things we see go wrong. We're gonna go through some things you can do to overcome some of the investment mistakes we tend to see. The first one, there's a term. It's called myopic loss aversion, and that is individuals disproportionately feel short-term investment losses versus gains. Mm-hmm. And one of the items they can overcome that with, is just the frequency of feedback. How often do you check your accounts? Do you check your statements? And we spend a lot of time talking about investing is a long-term process. It happens over short terms, but it's a long-term process. Right. And so if you are logging in daily or looking at your statements monthly, and you're more likely to see losses in the short-term period. And that the emotions get involved.
That's true. I was just about to say, for clients that are listening right now, who we're talking about. we want you watching it, right? Of course we want you watching it, but don't watch it so much that it gets you emotionally drained, right? That's what people like us are hired to do, right? And it comes back to this: have you developed a plan? Right? Meaning, what is your investment plan? And also, does it make sense to have things on automatic? Do we look at a bucket approach? How often is it rebalanced? How often do you see your advisor? We talk to our people 2, 3, 4 times a year. We just have to do that, because again, the way we see it is we're dealing with our hard-earned money, right? And so it's important we meet as often as we do.
Quickly going back to that bucket approach. So part of the plan is identifying what you want your money to do. Hopefully there's that short-term reserves or savings amount. Mm-hmm. And then you can bucket out what you're going to do with your investment accounts. Are you looking for more growth? Do you have the savings available should the market come down and you don't want to pull from those accounts? Mm-hmm. Do you want to be just more conservative with your overall asset allocation? So just defining what you want your money to do, it kind of goes a long way to figuring out where that plan goes.
Exactly. And the one thing that I want to also end on is this: we encourage our clients, right? Usually what happens is a big bulk of their money, we're the ones that are managing it, right? Because again, they want a professional to do it. But Tom, you said it. Well, let's they got that itch, right? Where it's like, fine, well, let's create a fund money account where, whatever, a lot of times we send $10,000, $20,000 or whatever, and they're managing it themselves. Buy whatever the heck you want. Have some fun with it. And it's kind of fun because, of course, if they got a winner, they'll come back at us and say, oh, look what I did here. But then, of course, we come back and we say, hey, well, look what we did. But, have those type of things, so that way you can continue to enjoy yourself, knowing that a bulk of it is being taken care of.
Again, it's just identifying kind of how much you have and then what amount do you want to use to scratch that itch. Most of the time it tends to be smaller. You're not
I said 10 to 20.
Most of the time it tends to be smaller, but yes, you're out there, you want to go buy a stock name you've heard of or something speculative, just see if it hits. Yeah. And it's just identifying kind of how much should be there and what makes sense for you.
It was funny. The other day I met with a gal, and so her husband and her finance, I can't say the name of the company of the stock that she bought. The name of the company if I say it, but anyways, her husband and her financial advisor said, no, don't buy this. She bought it anyway, and it turned out to be a home run. And so
She was feeling pretty good.
She was feeling pretty good about that. And so I said, hey, we'll hire you. I mean, we'll take you. But anyway, I mean, this is good stuff. I mean, Tommy, what is the message? The message is number one, yes, we all have an emotional attachment to money. But number two, if you do let your emotions get in the way, hire a professional.
It's just identifying your strengths and weaknesses, figuring out what you're good at.
Right.
If you're good at planning, you can stick to a investment objective.
Right.
Kind of all those pieces. If your emotions get in the way, sometimes you need that coach.
Yeah.
Just somebody to talk to or talk you through different market ups and downs.
And the other thing too, education is important. And so we do encourage all of you to go to our YouTube channel. And so just search Retire Vivid. We got a lot of great content on there. You can also take a look at past episodes that we have filmed. We also do some short reels in there for you as well too. Because again, information's key, right? We want people to be educated so they can make an informed decision. So unfortunately, that's all the time we've got. I thought it was a pretty good episode today.
Yeah, I felt like it went quick.
It went probably too quick. But again, thank you all for listening. Also, thank you for making this show possible. And also be sure to set your DVR so you never, ever, ever miss an episode of Retire Vivid, as we're here to help you, guide you, give you the tools you need to make an informed retirement decision. So again, thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time right here on Retire Vivid.
Cameron McCarty and Tommy Breitbach are investment advisor representatives of Vivid Wealth Management, a CC-registered investment advisor located in Des Moines, Iowa. Investment advisory services are offered through Vivid Wealth Management, LLC. Insurance products and services are offered through Vivid Tax and Wealth Advisors and individually licensed and appointed agents. Tax planning and preparation services are offered through Vivid Tax Center, LLC. The preceding entities are affiliated. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Case studies and examples presented are hypothetical and used to demonstrate a concept. These studies do not represent actual clients or results. Similar or even positive results cannot be guaranteed. None of the entities above are affiliated or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended to provide investment, tax, or legal advice. Viewers are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified attorney, insurance agent, tax or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed.